Morning, everybody, and thanks for being here. I want to talk about human habitat. It's one of those topics that tends to fall into the house fixer-upper TV channel media, or it's often regarded as something that somebody else does. But the places that we inhabit, built environments of all kinds, are actually consuming upwards of 50% of all generated energy. And they are responsible for, the way they're built, responsible for over 33% of CO2 emissions. So that is a very, very large portion of activity in climate mitigation that is often overlooked. It's assumed that somehow the developers and builders are going to do a better job with green building and things like that. If you ask any wildlife biologist what makes for a successful species, they'll tell you all the time it's habitat. But what we've done over the last 100 years, with great gusto, in fact, is to convert the habitat that should nurture us and nourish the human spirit into a real estate commodity. And that, with all of the financial incentives for fast profits and returning loans as fast as possible, has actually created a race to the bottom in quality, durability, and fitness for purpose. And so we have an incredibly fragmented way of providing human habitat, shelter, whether it's housing, schools, or office buildings, places of work, the places that we remember so clearly as children when we're growing up. We've converted them into, let's get it done as cheaply as possible, and it's hurting all of us. So what do we do about this? One thing that we've taken a very hard look at over the last several years is what happened in the late 1800s in the United States when the Midwest and certainly some of the Western communities were being developed. The big kit house and kit building companies like Sears and Roebuck and others basically changed the way things got built and the way things got designed. So what we're doing is taking a very, very hard look at that. We're applying through Natura an approach that is in common use by companies like Tesla, by Lockheed and Apple, and that is completely integrating the process of designing environments with the manufacturing and fabrication and assembly ways and means of doing it. So it doesn't mean to say that there's a one size fits all, but it does mean that we change enormously the level of fragmentation that currently exists in how things get built. You can see it on all the TV programs that do the fixer-upper shows. It's a real mess. Nobody knows whether a subcontractor is going to come and show up. Nobody knows really whether the end result is going to work. And so the approach we're taking is no different than what rocket makers or companies like Tesla do when they're applying design and manufacturing and fabrication into an integrated process. What does this do? Right now, the way things get built for a $10 million project, maybe 40% of the total project cost goes into the actual fabric of the building itself. The rest of it is vacuumed away by a whole host of different folks who, I guess, wet their beaks at the expense of the project, but don't deliver much in the way of real value to the end product. So the work we're doing, we have a manufacturing site up in Snowflake, Arizona, and we're going to be integrating two streams of activity. One is making best use of Arizona's forest resources, and that is the use of forest restoration waste streams as raw materials. Instead of chipping it up and burning it, we're actually using it to create engineered structural timber panels and other components. And from the industrial hemp waste streams, the hurd and the fiber, we're actually creating insulating masonry and other products. So the built environments that we're designing and making have about 85% of all of the volume of materials in them coming from things that are grown naturally. We have some examples through this. I can, are you going to slide through this, Erin?
Yeah, sorry. Tell me, I'm on slide 6 right now.
Yeah,
tell me where to.
Yeah, just go back. No, go forward, sorry. Yep.
Here?
Next one. There we go.
Sorry about that.
No problem. What we're doing, we have a fairly sophisticated computational design ecosystem underpinning all of this. So when we do a design for a building, a school, or whatever it is, we automatically know how much acreage of forest and how much acreage of industrial hemp needs to be grown in order to supply that. It's the same with lots and lots of other materials. So we've created this very flexible Lego kit approach, which is very amenable to the process of industrialization. Next slide, please. And the next one. Yeah, so we know down to the bolt and the nut and the rivet exactly what goes into any one structure that comes out of this design and manufacturing process. And that's a huge help because it means that when we are working on designs, as we have been for the past few months, for rapid rehousing in places like Puerto Rico and Phoenix, which is 100,000 units short at the moment, that we have solutions that are ready to go, that are predictable, that perform well, that are off-grid, that need no electric infrastructure in order to make them work. So by looking at that one question of how we reshape human habitat, we're taking a manufacturing best practices approach to this. And we know through all of the sophisticated simulations that we've been doing that we can do this cost effectively and it can make a difference to people's lives. Lastly, given the brief amount of time each of us has here, we know that human habitats, the environments that people occupy at night and during the daytime, have a huge impact on their health. For example, if people are expected to sleep in hot, airless bedrooms, 85 degrees Fahrenheit and above, after just 2 days, their waking appetites are elevated by as much as 40%, and the cravings are for carbohydrates and sugars. So we know just from that one little piece of clinical knowledge that the way we design, the way we build, the way we manufacture, the way we can do things smarter than we are right now can make an indelible impact on people's well-being. And our objective from the very beginning has been to focus on that one thing. How do we make healthier human habitats that actually work and that act as carbon sponges to help mitigate the worst aspects of climate change? I'll leave it at that for the moment. There's a lot more detail in this, and these slides are available for everybody if you want to look at more of them and what we're doing, or you can contact me and I'll be happy to answer any questions.